Hello everyone. Should I say labdiens? I'll be giving you a shorter version of my longer talk, which was developed last year, and I did update it a little bit for this presentation. So it was mostly for, let's say, security-focused folks and also domain folks. Are you here all in the domain industry? Probably no, but I know there are people say there's a person from Greek domain registry who is there, and there may be some of them. So if you see some jargon of words which you don't know, please come back later and ask me. I'll explain that to you, okay? And we are talking about the resiliency during the war. And in fact, the war is going on in Ukraine since 2014 with the Crimean annexation and, of course, the Donetsk area. But I wonder what is this thing on the screen? Is it?
No.
Okay, good. So yeah, I'm trying to give facts and not be too biased, but I guess in these countries we can be more frank and open. And so I mentioned briefly that we started to prepare for what we called electrical outages. That was our code word at disaster preparedness in anniversary of Ukrainian domain founding in December. So we had some internal plans for basically, you know, making our command and control independent of our own infrastructure. Traditionally, Ukraine was hosting its own hardware in its own data centers or rented data centers in Ukraine. We had some foreign assets, but we were mostly redundant DNS servers and such. So for example, the registry was inside, the financial system was inside, the database was inside. You know, many things were relying on Ukraine to be a country with, well, internet, electricity, you know, security. You know, nobody is prepared for the Spanish Inquisition, right? So we decided to do some things as a mature company, and I'm happy that Lithuanians got, you know, all prepared. I'm sure we'll see how that works out, maybe not. So things that we were kind of not expecting that happened was a denial of service attack, which was not just on Ukrainian infrastructure, but was also on the government infrastructure. That means banks, I don't know, I think there was some other things. Maybe Svetlana remembers that well. It was a bit blurred for me. But we had suffered through DNS outage partially, including gov.ua domain. And of course, we learned from that, and we did some of changes then. And then we started to deploy our routine. So I basically moved the company operations to this weekly update cycle when you roll back the changes, and we have to change to some new providers, and we just added some Unicast clouds. So we had our own, we had a couple of others, and we added one more. And what happened that we learned how to contact parties that you rely on quickly. And it was, by the way, Katrina was very instrumental to our transition. I never said that. I wouldn't say she was number one person, maybe number two, number three. I'm not counting people, but she was a networker who was able to contact other parties, which then come back to us to offer help. So instead of, say, me or our CEO doing this, you know, fanning out, we have them all conversion on us. And it was very helpful, and I named these parties later. So we started to post-analyze, and we kind of thought, you know, in March or April, we will redo our infrastructure to be more resilient should another denial of service attack to come. Well, it came a bit earlier. As you all know, we had the military attack on Ukraine commencing in February. And that was a stressful moment. I was abroad. I was in Cyprus on a short, let's say, vacation. And I started to work 24/7 as well, of course, is everybody in Ukraine. We have to do personal movements. We have to do quick changes, and we started to execute complete relocation of registry abroad. The plan was for the Russia to capture our country and its leadership in 72 hours. That was widely communicated. So there was my own plan to fully relocate the registry. I was prepared to run UA domain fully abroad in exile. And that, of course, was also a duty, you know, for the registry to protect the national infrastructure. And okay, that not just us, right? I'm sure that Ukrainian banks, Ukrainian government, Ukrainian military all have the contingency plans. For example, I know the railroad moved their control to the moving car, and they had changed the locations, right? Running the Ukrainian railroad from the train, so they were not known. Okay, so location was not known. Well, I learned of this later. We have allocated backup locations, and by the way, Latvia was one of them, Czech Republic was another, and Sweden was another. That's NetNot, and I have Patrick Falstrom present here. I'm thankful to him. And I don't think we have Czech registry representatives here. We use Signal, which is a messenger I recommend to everybody to install and use for all of your work communications. Of course, you're free to use Slack or whatever solution you use, but it's always good to have a plan B. Why Signal? Because it's not difficult to install, it's not Telegram, it's not connected to Russians in any way, which is very important. I can't stress this long enough, hard enough. It's not just Russians, it's entire criminal mafia state of Russia. Make no mistake, if you have Russian citizens in your registry, they may be infiltrating your organization. Not because they're bad people, because they've been forced by the government to be so. Everybody with ties to Russia is potential threat to your company and to your government and to your security. I would not repeat that. My own opinion, right? So we have the 4 priorities. It's the people, the stuff, because nothing works without the people. The data, of course, meaning that, you know, copies of the master database and such. Then the services like DNS and the money, of course, but you know, you have to spend more money when you have emergency. We have some reserves. And the communication was done within our team, within our customers and partners, the government. The public was kept, you know, in the loop. And then, of course, the Cybersecurity, the Ukrainian CERT, we have the military, Minister of Defense communications separately. And so these are pieces of the puzzle. This is more interested, like say, if you're a registry operator, but basically EPP is the database of domains, DNSSEC is the function of creating domain signatures, DNS is what your computer uses to resolve the domain, the who is the yellow pages and their DAP as well, the website, you know what that, and of course, you know, your support channels, email, chat, we also use that to communicate to our external partners. Sadly, lots of people in Ukraine use Telegram for one-on-one communication, and I think it's not safe because it's always stored in the clear in the Telegram servers unless you have one-on-one security chat, which is opt-in. Don't use Telegram for anything that you don't want to say in public, please. WhatsApp's fine if you use secure WhatsApp chat. That must be latest version. We had lots of things we accumulated over the 20+ history of our company, and some of these things are operating in dual mode. Some of them in Ukraine, some of them in Europe, sometimes they work in parallel. So we decided, you know, which parts we outsource, and we did outsource, of course, the hardware, not the cloud, but other parties, and DNS services. Others are still run by us. We own our data, we own our financial database, we own our, you know, business logic and stuff, meaning that, you know, we don't say move it to, let's say, CIRA, the Canadian registry, like the New Zealand did, or, I don't know, another country, right? Just saying. In my opinion, in the European approach to things, you do care about privacy, right? This is not United States where your data is a product for somebody else to sell. This is privacy-oriented mentality, and this is, let's say, locally focused economy, right? You know, for Latvia, the Latvian companies does that. For Ukraine, Ukrainian company does that, right? I think it's the right thing because you create jobs, you create expertise, and you create basically, let's say, a little matter of national pride. We learned some things, and I mentioned in point 4, the people are more valuable than computers or money, or time is more valuable too. Okay, the money, I mentioned that. It's very good to work with smaller companies, especially those who have personal connection. I mentioned CERT.LV. Okay, they're non-profit, still a company, a good one, and not small, and some other companies are small too. We dealt with Cloudflare, which is a huge company, but we had a personal contact there, basically on exec level. So we reached out to them, they gave us free service, which was very important. We still use that. They mentioned partners. I just outlined how it went with every one of them, and you know which pieces of the puzzle. The NetNode is the DNS cloud. It's basically a replica of our own cloud, and the CentralNic is our registry partner. We are using them as a backup location, or now actually it's like primary location for our database and other things that I don't want to mention here because it's company private information. We also partnered with the CERT.LV as some other resources and a communication like I mentioned. And then we have some other companies which I kind of briefly mentioned here. They're in point 1. These are also DNS partners. And IANA is the registry for the root zone. I do know stuff there, and I'm grateful for them to be able to quickly react to the providers we have added within 24, 48-hour window, and doing things on Sunday by direct messaging, again on Signal. I was able to escalate, American night on Sunday to be a time when they do things we needed to do quickly. I also mentioned 3 communities. Okay, maybe, yeah. Okay, there is a central community, and there is also RIPE community, which is European providers and other internet address users. And of course, well, ccTLD, I meant, I guess, CCNSO, but also Centre. Centre is Association of European Domain Operators. I mentioned Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Sweden, Departamentet, which are sponsoring the NetNode work with us. And I mentioned, is it, what this thing in point 3 after CERT.LV? Is it some cryptic sign? Okay, 6Connect is a small DNS provider. Actually, they're a big company, but they're DNS provider. The military of Ukraine has requested a mil.ua domain. We actually had interesting conversation with them over Signal, and we handheld their staff to implement DNSSEC within, I don't know, 48 hours. It was fun. They do other things mostly, but these are people on the back office, right? The Ministry of Defense is not a field operation. Some other things I didn't mention in my slides, and these are my contact details. The phone number can be used on Signal and also on WhatsApp. And my email is over there. And Svetlana can tell you more about the registry itself, about our domain count, about our marketing actions, our de-Russification campaign, meaning that the names of cities like Kyiv or Odessa or Kharkov used to be spelled in Russian way with the English transliteration. Now we're moving the Kyiv to be the primary name for the city zone versus the Kyiv being the, the occupationists' mark. One more thing. We are looking still for the European partners, the registrars in European Union. If you are here, if you want to do it, well, your registry, please come to me and let's talk. We are fine with companies we work with, but I'd rather have another 1 or 2 added just to take off the load. And also we may offer you some things in Ukraine, maybe some market insights, some technology structure or anything. I'll be glad. And of course, if you're not in EU, it doesn't mean you're excluded. I just think that most likely people in this room are from the European Union countries. All right, so that's good. I have a minute still. I'd like to offer my, express my extreme gratitude for the CERT.LV to sponsor Svetlana's and my trips here, and also for the excellent event, the grand ceremony, and the great hospitality of Riga. Despite the dark skies, I feel like it's a sunny day. Thank you.